Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a really massive piece of source material, Pope Leo XIV's 2026 encyclical Magnifica Humanitas. Now, regardless of your personal background, this document is a huge deal. It tackles the absolutely crucial ethical choices we're all facing right now in the age of artificial intelligence. It's not just some abstract theological text either. It's a deeply structured look at how rapidly changing technology intersects with human dignity. So let's look at exactly how it maps this all out. Right off the bat, the Pope throws down a central defining question for us. With our technology advancing at warp speed, which path are we actually choosing for our collective future? Are we just blindly building a new Tower of Babel, or are we intentionally constructing a city where humanity can genuinely thrive? This is the fundamental crossroads the encyclical places us at. To frame this choice, the text uses two pretty powerful biblical metaphors. First, you've got the Tower of Babel. In our digital age, this represents uniformity, the complete idolatry of profit, the dominance of a small technocratic elite, and, maybe most dangerously, reducing the entire mystery of the human experience to mere data points. Then, you've got the alternative, rebuilding Jerusalem, which is inspired by the biblical figure Nehemiah. This path represents shared responsibility, communion, dialogue, and actually embracing the plurality of human voices. So it's really a choice between top-down dominance and collaborative, community-driven growth. Now, you might be thinking this is totally new territory for the Church. Actually, scratch that. It's part of a long, living legacy of Catholic social doctrine. The Church doesn't just invent these frameworks out of thin air. And this definitely isn't the first time humanity has faced a massive technological upheaval. There's a really consistent history of adapting to societal shifts here. It starts way back in 1891 with the Industrial Revolution, moves through the global economic crises of the 1930s, the post-war modern world, the ecological crises addressed in 2015, all the way up to 2026 with Magnifica Humanitas taking on the AI revolution. It's essentially an evolving toolkit updated for each generation's specific new things. So, let's look at Section 1, the ethical framework. Basically, a toolkit for the digital age. The very first tool in this kit is the common good. And the text defines this not just as the simple sum of individual interests or whatever happens to be trending online today. It's the foundational social conditions that allow everyone to flourish. Think of it kind of like a community garden. If one group is locked out by a digital divide, the common good of the entire neighborhood is fundamentally compromised. Next up is a concept called subsidiarity. This one is absolutely crucial. It basically means that decisions should be made at the closest possible level to the people they actually affect. In the context of AI, it argues that massive, opaque tech monopolies shouldn't be dictating our daily lives, our visibility, or our economic opportunities from way up high. Local communities, schools, and everyday citizens absolutely must have a voice and agency in the digital decisions that shape their actual physical lives. Then we've got solidarity. Now, the encyclical notes that we already have a sort of de facto technical solidarity, right? We're all globally connected by networks and fiber optic cables. But true solidarity is the conscious realization that our futures are deeply intertwined. It's the ethical demand to transform those mere digital connections into active, real-world paths of mutual care and shared responsibility. Okay, this next one is really fascinating. It's how the document modernizes an ancient concept. The universal destination of goods. Historically, this meant soil, water, and natural resources. But the Pope explicitly updates this for 2026, arguing that data, algorithms, and digital infrastructure are the new wealth of nations. Because of that, they literally cannot be hoarded by a few private actors. They have to benefit all of humanity, and their use needs to be regulated to prevent entirely new forms of exploitation. So, what happens when we put all these tools together? Well, together, they demand that we defend human dignity way above mere computational efficiency. It firmly rejects the idea that a few tech monopolies should be silently dictating societal norms. It demands that the benefits of all these massive technological leaps serve everyone. And it puts social justice and the inclusion of the vulnerable right at the center of tech development. Moving on to Section 2, the AI challenge, technology and dominance. Before we even look at the machines themselves, the document says, hey, we need to look at the mindset behind them. It points to ideologies like transhumanism and posthumanism. These view human limits, our vulnerabilities, and even the human body itself as mere optimization projects. Basically, defects that need to be corrected by a machine. It strongly warns against treating humans as something to be surpassed, rather than as actual persons capable of deep love and communion. The encyclical issues a pretty stark warning here, stating, "Never has humanity had such power over itself." It points out that while AI brings us these immense, almost unbelievable capabilities, it also concentrates unprecedented, completely unchecked power in private, often transnational hands. We are essentially outsourcing vast amounts of social control to entities that operate totally outside of democratic oversight. So who, or rather, what, are we handing all this power to? We have to remember that while AI can process data millions of times faster than us, it only mimics human behavior. It doesn't have a body, it doesn't feel pain, and it certainly doesn't stub its toe in the middle of the night. It fundamentally lacks a moral compass. Sure, it can simulate a perfectly caring response, but it has absolutely no understanding of the moral consequences of the code it executes. Because of this, the text lays out a really clear three-step progression of the risks we're facing in our daily lives. Step 1. The sheer ease and speed of AI weakens our own critical judgment and creativity. Step 2. AI starts to simulate human relationships like companions or therapists, which creates a false intimacy that actually isolates us from real, messy human friction and connection. And step 3, on a systemic level, these algorithms secretly encode the cultural biases of their creators, quietly sorting and excluding vulnerable people under the shiny veneer of mathematical objectivity. And in response to this whole drive for, algorithmic perfection, the document makes a really beautiful counterargument. Our limitations, our finitude, are not errors to be engineered away. Think about this for a second. Our vulnerabilities, our failures, and our weaknesses are exactly the spaces where we learn to experience compassion, forgiveness, and genuine human connection. If you engineer out the vulnerability, you literally engineer out the humanity. Which brings us to Section 3, Safeguarding Humanity, Truth and Education in a Digital Age. Look, we're living in an era of AI-generated deepfakes, hyper-targeted manipulation, and insane echo chambers. The encyclical insists that truth absolutely must be protected as a common good. Truth isn't something that can just be owned or fabricated by whoever happens to have the most computing power. Because without a shared baseline of truth, the document warns, democratic life and social trust fundamentally collapse. To combat this collapse, the text calls for an ecology of communication. This is a big, multi-layered approach. It requires totally transparent public policies holding AI companies accountable. It means actively strengthening independent journalism. It requires families to step up and foster digital literacy, and schools to fiercely cultivate critical thinking, teaching students not just how to use AI, but crucially, when not to use it. And all of this builds into an urgent call for an educational alliance. The document is highly critical of business models that literally monetize human attention, especially the attention of minors. It calls for policymakers, schools, and families to band together to protect young minds from screen addiction, hypersexualization, and the algorithmic manipulation that breeds this incredibly dangerous culture of absolute immediacy. Ultimately, this all leads to literally one of the most striking phrases in the entire document, the call to disarm AI. Now, no, this doesn't mean smashing our computers. It means freeing technology from the arms race of private monopolies. It means pulling it out of aggressive geopolitical competition and that mindset of total dominance. We have to bring these incredibly powerful tools back under the democratic oversight and ethical control of human communities. Which brings us right back to that metaphorical crossroads we started with, leaving us with a truly profound choice. What are we actually building? Will we be completely seduced by the efficiency of a new Babel, just letting technology and monopolistic power dominate our lives and define our worth? Or are we going to do the really hard collaborative work of rebuilding Jerusalem, harnessing this incredible technology to build a society grounded in shared responsibility and genuine connection? The technology is already here, but the blueprint? That's entirely up to us. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. As you open your next app or interact with your next algorithm, I'll just leave you with this to ponder. Are you automating away your limits? Are you actively protecting your humanity?